House. Tonight's performances are based on the actors' in-person interviews of Lower East Side residents, as much as possible in their own words. Tonight, the role of Nicholas Drakides, usually played by Marisol Carrere, will be played by our own Alex Rowe. As you can see, we are videotaping the show tonight. So those of you in the first row, if you don't want to be caught on camera, you might want to move back a row. So now, please turn off all cell phones, any music-making devices, so it doesn't distract the actors or the audience. And now, without further ado, welcome to Club 124 and the melodic Sinatra stylings of Nicholas Drakides.
Come fly with me, let's fly away. It's so perfect for a flying honeymoon. They say, come on, hey, we'll fly away. Let's fly away.
Good to see you. Good to see you. We called it Club 124 because that was the name of the building. 124 East 4th Street. But I didn't name it. It wasn't my idea. A lot of people think it was my idea. It wasn't. It was Lorraine Goodman's. Lorraine Goodman is a very talented tap dancer. And she, one night, had put this board out in front of the building and was tap dancing in the middle of the night. You know, kind of therapy for her. And I'm coming home from work. I'm coming home. I'm tired. You know what I mean? I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And Lorraine says, hey, Nick, come join me. And I don't remember her name. You know, it's New York. Who knows the names of their neighbors? So I check my date planner and I say, oh, hi, Lorraine. And she says, come on, come join me. And I don't want to do it, you know. I was exhausted. But, you know, I said, okay. So I went up. And I think she thought I was going to get like some music. But I came down with my suit, microphone stand, all my CDs, backup music, and I started in with Night and Day. And when Lorraine was tap dancing, you know, there's some people looking around. When I started singing, you know, more and more people started to gather. They were digging it. And the cops come by. You know, we don't have a permit. The people out in the street, and they say, please clear the street. Don't block the street. So we kept going. A couple of weeks later, more and more people. The guys who were in the furniture store downstairs, they had pulled out all these couches and chairs, you know, armchairs, people sitting in the chairs, big crowd gathering up. Cops come by again, and they stop. They're blocking traffic. And they say, how about summer wind? Summer wind. I'm going to sing summer wind. So I finished up, we got the world on the string. I go up to the top of the stoop. They take their spotlight and they put it on me. I do summer wind. The crowd goes wild. They're really digging my vibes. You know, I think it's that Irish, Italian, macho thing. The cops really like me. So this went on for, you know, like 9 weeks. We became famous. You know, Ira Glass, he's got that show on NPR, This American Life. They did a segment called The Kindness of Strangers, and they featured me in it. Bryant Gumbel did a show on CBS, and they devoted a section to me, and got a full page in the New York Times. I was like a celebrity. That was 1997. We had to stop, you know, eventually because it was just too big. You know, it got out of hand. But that was a great year. That was a great summer. People ask me, what's my favorite Sinatra song? You know, that's a bad question. That's a bad question because you know, it all depends. And my relationship with Frank Sinatra goes back to when I was a kid, really.
You and me, we wanted it all. We wanted it all. Passion without pain, sunshine without rainy days. We wanted it always.
I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York. An Aquarius, moon in Cancer, Sag rising. And I'm half Irish, half Italian. My father was half Greek and half Irish. His father was from Port Said, had a very dramatic childhood. And my mother, well, she was half Italian, half Sicilian. Her grandparents were bootleggers in the 30s, for the Roosevelts. And they introduced me to jazz at a very young age. Took me to concerts. There was always music in the house. They were very, very interested in encouraging me and encouraging my singing. But when I was 5 years old, my mother divorced my father because he was, he was a player. You know what I mean? But that was very traumatic for me. It was very, very hard. I was in therapy. 5 years old. And so my father moved to the West Village in New York, and I stayed in Poughkeepsie. But I would go away to music camp every summer, and I would continue singing. Then I was 15 years old. I was first singing Frank Sinatra, but I had been interested in it long before that. My connection with Frank went back to when I was a kid. When on the weekends, I'd go down to visit my father in the city, and he'd give me like $20, and I'd go out into the streets. Mostly, I'd go to the disco night. And I bought all kinds of albums, all sorts of records. I got probably 2,000 CDs, 1,000 albums now from that time. It was great. He was the art director. He did magazine advertising, that kind of thing. And he knew a lot of very famous people. So I had a blast. I loved visiting him on weekends. My mother and my stepfather, they moved to Tucson, Arizona, in my senior year of high school. So I went and lived with them. They put me in this big school. And I hated it. I hated it. It was worse than Poughkeepsie. So I said, you gotta send me back. So she sent me back, and I lived with relatives, and I finished off high school there. But then I really wanted to study music more. So I went to the Boston Conservatory of Music. Not Boston Conservatory, that was the other one. I went to Berkeley College of Music in Boston. And I studied jazz composition, jazz vocals, arrangements, piano. I played with a lot of really, really great people there. And when I graduated, it was 1987. Well, I was coming back to New York.
I'm in love with you and all that jazz. You're my dream come true. And all that jazz. Baby, you're too much. You've got the skin that I'd love to touch. The skin I'd love to touch too much. And all that jazz.
You thought it was going to be New York, New York? I moved in with my father, and I got a job with the Starlight Orchestra. The Starlight Orchestra was started by Valerie Romanoff. She was a guitar player, and she and her husband started the orchestra, a 16-piece band, and I became their Sinatra specialist. It's interesting how I got that job. I was going to do a gig in Fire Island, and I didn't want to go, because you got to take the subway to the train, to the ferry, it takes forever, And I'm talking to my mother, and my mother says, Nicholas, it could be a good opportunity, you'll never know who you're going to meet. And she was right. So I met Valerie Romanoff, and I started playing with them. And that was great. We played like corporate events, weddings, social weddings. I learned Hebrew, we played bar mitzvahs. I made a lot of money. I played with some very, very, very famous people, too, who come to hear what we played. And I met then Adina Menzel. She lived in an apartment on that big building above the liquor store in Astor Place, but she was nobody then. But she'd give me rides to gigs. She was a freaking terrible driver. Her car was so bashed up, you couldn't get into it through the doors. You had to climb in through the hatchback in the back. But one day she told me she had this audition for an off-Broadway play, and she said, "Don't tell Valerie." So she goes and she gets it. That was Rent. Now she's a household name. At the same time, I also got a job at the Four Seasons, not the Four Seasons Hotel, you know, the Four Seasons Bar and Restaurant, in the Seagram's building. It's funny how I got that. I just applied through the Village Voice. And I was a bar back, I was a host, I was a bartender. I became the lead bartender. Sometimes I let my trio play there. Later on, I was a music director. They were very, very good to me. I worked there for 30 years. It was a great place, and all kinds of celebrities, famous people came. You know, Princess Di, Charlton Heston, Jackie Onassis, corporate CEOs, politicians. It was a really, really great place, and they were very, very good to me. One thing, funny story. Joan Rivers came one night, and she wants to check her dog. So I get a bowl of water, I put it in the back room. Check your dog, but who does that? Oh, please. I was doing that and making a lot of money, and at the same time, I was partying a lot. You know, the 90s were a very decadent time. A lot of sex parties all over the place. I was going out to the Palladium, I was going out to the Roxy, I was hanging out with drag queens at the Pyramid and singing Frank Sinatra and bell bottoms, you know. It was a great, great time. I met Robin Bird. You know, she had that sex show on cable television. And around this time also, I was dating Aidan Maloney. That's Patty Maloney's daughter from the Chieftains. I did a Carnegie Hall special with them. I was hanging out with a lot of people, maybe too much. I was too generous. You know, I wanted people to like me. And then things kind of started to change.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination.
Sometime after Aidan and I had broken up, I was dating this girl named Yvonne. I really loved her. We dated for about 3 years. But I found out she was sleeping with a friend of mine. I mean, you relate to that. It was very, very hard for me. It really, really broke me up. It took me like a year to get over it. And my father, you know, he was a great guy, but he drank too much, and he smoked too much, and he developed esophageal cancer. You know, and he died. We saw it coming. It was expected, still. I was very close to my father. It really was a blow to me. I had an opportunity to go sing in Asia. I had met these Japanese guys when I was working at the Four Seasons, and they asked me to come sing Sinatra with them. You know, in Thailand, Singapore, Japan, all over the place. I really wanted to do it. I'm talking to my mother, and she says, well, Nicholas, you have a very, very good job. It's very secure. You don't want to go do that. You know, just stay at the Four Seasons. He was very conservative, my mother. You know, I listened to her. But I regret that. I could have traveled the world. I've given up restaurant work and just devoted myself to being a singer, but I didn't really have the discipline to do it. And I should have followed my heart. I had moved into the building I live in now on 9th Street. And there was this homeless woman on the steps one day. And I said, you know, asked her to move. And she said, fuck you, you're a gentrifier. It's your fault that I'm homeless. I'm a gentrifier. It's a rent-stabilized apartment. But I decided to use like reverse psychology on her. And so I said, you're right, I am a gentrifier. I'm going to call the cops. She said, call the fucking cops. So I called the cops. Well, she had gone on by the time they did that. But you know. And then the Four Seasons closed in 2017. I got a job at the Metropolitan Club, but I just didn't get along there. They weren't very nice to me. I didn't like it there. I met one guy, Christian, a good friend of mine now, a French guy. But otherwise, I just didn't fit in. And then the pandemic. And you know, at the start of the pandemic, we're all like, oh, we're all going to die. But a lot of people did die. I knew a lot of people did die. And yet, it was a very magical time for me. I wasn't working for like a year and a half. And I got to kind of relax. You know, when I was working, a lot of my friends, they would do crazy things, you know, dye their hair blue, and I could never do that because I was at work. But during the pandemic, well, you know, I dyed my hair blue. And I would go down to the beach, down to Coney Island, or out around the city about 4 a.m. and take pictures. I'm a semi-professional photographer. I plan on coming out with a book of my photos. I used to take them in the 90s of my friends at the clubs, and I was taking them during the pandemic. And I had the only one with access to the roof in my building. So I would go up to the top of the roof in the middle of the night, and I would sing, make a kind of gift to my neighbors.
The moonlight warms the silver sand. A seabird sails across the cove. The water's crystal in your hand. The air is cinnamon and clove.
I started to feel hoarse. And I found I've got polyps on my vocal cords. I can't sing anymore. So, I'm trying to take better care of myself. Be more careful about, you know, who I let into my life. Choose my friends more wisely. I'm trying to lose some weight. I put on a lot of weight during the pandemic. I'm going to get rid of that. I started meditating. My mother taught me about transcendental meditation. I'll just lie on my bed in the morning and just, you know, relax. I had surgery a year and a half ago. And I'm getting better. I love my apartment. Art on the walls from my parents, you know, original art, and nice furniture, you know, no home goods. I only drink the best wine. Like tonight, I'm waiting for my friend Anthony. He's going to come over. We'll go up on the roof, drink a little wine. We're going to go out, have dinner together, just relax. I'm going to get better. Frank did it. I'm going to do it. You're going to hear from me.